The origin of today's feast, the Solemnity of Mary, the Mother of God, goes back many centuries. In the early centuries of the Church, the first few, there were some heresies that denied the divinity of Christ or denied the humanity of Christ. At the Council of Ephesus in 431, the Church Fathers, together with the Pope and all the bishops at that time, declared Mary to be Theotokos, in the Greek, which means Mother of God. Jesus was fully human and fully divine, and he was born of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And so we can truly say that she is the Mother of God. God is his Father, Mary is his mother. And that's the doctrine that we say. And Mary has much to teach us. I think primarily her trust. Mary was so willing to do what God asked of her, even if she didn't understand why. And along the way, with all of the crosses that she had to bear, she didn't question. She continued to trust. She was there at one of the happiest moments of all time, Bethlehem, when the birth of Christ. She was there at one of the saddest moments of all time, at the foot of the cross on Calvary. For us Christians, too, there's going to be a lot of Bethlehems, joy and happiness, but there's also going to be Calvaries. And we learn from our Blessed Mother to trust that God is always with us. Mary kept in touch with God. That's what I hear in the readings tonight. It says that she kept all these things, reflecting on them in her heart. She was amazed at what she was hearing and seeing. These shepherds come to say, "This is the Son of God you brought into the world." Notice that they're announcing that to Mary. And I'm also struck by the fact that all who heard it were amazed. In other words, there were more than the shepherds. I never noticed that word "all" before. There were more than the shepherds at that stable. And the shepherds told this to many people, that the Son of God was born. But Mary kept in touch with God through her prayer. And that's what kept her going all through her life, right through Calvary and right through the resurrection of Jesus from the dead and his ascension into heaven, until she was finally assumed into heaven by God. You and I need to keep in touch with God too. We all have hundreds of people that pass through our lives. If you think back, the older you get, all the people that you knew, and many we've lost contact with completely. Not because we had a falling out or anything, it's just that we stopped being in touch, and then you just don't have a relationship anymore. It's not bad. But with God, we can't let that happen. Mary kept in touch with God, and we need to do the same. If you have any New Year's resolutions at all tonight, they should be maybe to keep in touch with God more closely during this coming year. Mary brought Christ into the world, but the world still needs Christ. And the only way that he continues to come into the world today is through us. We who say to God, "Let it be done to me according to your word." We who have been consecrated by the Holy Spirit, made God's sons and daughters in the waters of baptism. We need to bring God to the world today through our lives. With the Pope declaring this a year of mercy, we should let the spiritual and corporal works of mercy take a greater place in our life, to feed the hungry and clothe the naked and shelter the homeless and give food to the hungry and drink to the thirsty. We need to do that even more. And we need to counsel the doubtful, instruct the ignorant. We need to bury the dead. We need to do all those spiritual works of mercy too. And that's how Christ continues to live in our world. So it's a great feast tonight, and we ask Mary, the Mother of God, to be with us. At the foot of the cross, the church was really born. Jesus looked down from the cross and gazed into his mother's eyes and said, "Behold your son." And her son was St. John, and he said to him, "Behold your mother." He was one of the first newly ordained priests of the church, and there was a special bond. He said to John, "Take care of her," is what he was saying. And John took her into his home and cared for her. Every priest is called to do the same and have that relationship with Mary and with the church, It's very profound and humbling. But we're all called to realize that we are a part of that church. We are the sons and daughters of God, and that Mary's there to watch over us and be with us. No one loves us more in heaven than our Blessed Mother. And to go to her with our prayers, she hears them and she'll answer them. Jesus doesn't have any favorites. Certainly Mary doesn't either. Former secretary of mine was a wonderful, wonderful woman, and she's married, and she was pregnant with her 7th child, and had a wonderful marriage, but she was just having some difficulties, nothing serious, but she was frustrated. You can imagine 7 little ones and raising them and so forth. And one day she came back over, she said, I have to go to church for a while. I said, okay. And she came back over to the rectory and she said, well, I probably shouldn't have done it, but I kind of got upset with the Blessed Mother. I said, well, what happened? She said, well, I'm pouring out my troubles to her, and then I looked up at her and I said to her, oh, you with your one. And I thought, that's a great line, but I thought, could you be more familiar with anyone than that? If she could be that familiar with the Blessed Mother, I'm sure the Blessed Mother was smiling upon her at that moment. And I think we have to know that we have that familiarity with her too. We're her children, and so we can go to her with anything. And so Mary, the Mother of God, is our mother too. And we thank God for her gift, for her willingness to do what God asked of her. Because of that, you and I have salvation. Because of that, you and I are promised a place in heaven with God, because Mary said yes. The more we say yes, we're going to bring other people to heaven with us.